Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm in a different angle today because normally, if I'm filming in this little alcove, I'm looking at that window where the light is, but it's morning, so the light's coming from this window that you can't see. So, cheers. It's morning. I just had one of my knitting videos post to this Booktube channel this morning, and I had so many comments from people that so lovingly watched the video, and some of them were knitters, so I don't want to delete it. It's over on my knitting channel, YouTube knitting channel, which I'll list down below. But I don't want to waste the chance for people to tell me about their knitting and their favorite yarns. Like, I'm such a new knitter that I love to read the comments. So stuff happens, I guess. And the reason, I'll just say before we get started with summer books, the reason that I started the channel as a very new knitter was like I wanted to show and to document what it's like to be new at something, gain more confidence with every new skill that you learn, even if you learn it in a way that's still wonky. I have a very like Frankenstein-y looking vest that I'm making, and it's finished now. It's blocking, and I just wanted to document the imperfection of it all, and how in life, like, that can be the most exciting thing, is to learn and even keep the things that you're creating that aren't perfect, whether it's sewing or knitting or making pottery, whatever it is that you're doing. Like, I am a process person for sure, and I care less about, well, I definitely don't care about perfection, but like, it is all in the learning that's the most fun for me. So that's what the knitting channel is all about. Summer. I have loved watching all the summer reading videos. There's something about summer. I don't really go into summer thinking about what I'm going to read because I'm usually not ever thinking about what I want to read. But I think the seasons will cause me to influence me to pick up, just naturally gravitate towards stories as I'm like looking in the library or looking on the library website about what I'm going to pick up, or what I'm most interested in when I'm watching other videos. So I just wanted to share, yeah, 6 books that I've read. Not necessarily in the summer. I think there's one that I didn't read in the summer, but I started reading it in a warm place, and I feel like I look back on the reading experiences I've had with these books, and I I just feel like they're so perfect for summer. So let's start. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fictions and a nonfiction, which is an essay collection that I've been thinking about. Let's start with this book that I think I read. Yeah, I read this like last August. It's Rosamund Lehman's Dusty Answer, a book I've never heard of before. And I went on a business trip to New Orleans, well, actually to Baton Rouge, but then I had flown into New Orleans, and I went to a bookstore, and I saw this beautiful Eau de Nil penguin spine, and one of the, I'll just call them backlisted authors I was looking for was Rosamund Lehman, and they had Weather in the Streets, but for some reason, I think this was because it was her first book, and it was such a weird title. I talk about this in one of the videos back when I was reading this in last August. And Dusty Answer comes from a quote by George Meredith. Ah, what a dusty answer gets the soul when hot for certainties in this our life. I feel like this made such a wonderful summer read because it centers around the main character, Judith Earle. I think she's like a teenager, maybe just out of what we would call high school in the US. And it says, it's her solitary childhood spent dreaming in her enchanted house by the river. She's kind of an awkward teenager that's going to go on to college. Above all, the novel is about Judith's consuming relationship with a family of cousins who are next door. So these cousins all come together at different times of year, like the holidays at Christmas and then in the summer. And so there's Christmas scenes, and there is scenes in the river or the lake that they're swimming in. And you can just feel this sense of like wanting to belong. And the cousins are in and of themselves so different and quirky. Rosamund Lehman really draws such nuanced characters and they're of different ages, that you get drawn into the story based on the atmosphere, based on this, timid, wanting to belong character, Judith, and watching her then go off to college and her experience at college with a friend. She's made a friend and she's so happy about that. She seems to be liked by some other college young women. And what happens in that striving to keep a friendship and how important that is to her, and then coming back, and as they grow up, what the relationships with these cousins are, and what she wants them to be and what they become. And just excellent. Rebecca West has a blurb on the back of this. It says, she uses words with the enjoyment and mastery with which Renoir used paint. Yeah. The candor and wit of her observation, her capacity for evoking atmosphere, the lyrical, sensuous quality of her descriptive writing, and her clear yet compassionate insight into individual psychology puts her immediately into the front rank of English writers. Let's see when this was written. 1927. Oh, it feels so modern. It just feels so modern, I have to say. The writing is before its time. Then I have to recommend this. I mean, for the cover alone, right? I mean, talk about summer. Elaine Dundee's The Dud Avocado. So this is her like one and only famous book. I think she went on to write one other and maybe a nonfiction. This takes place in Paris. I think a lot of recommendations, rightly so, are recommending Bonjour Tristesse by Francois Sagan, which I also read in the summer. Yeah, that's a French Riviera book. This is a young woman, I think maybe college age, going over to Paris in the late 50s. It was Elaine Dundee's Sally J. Gorse who told us what she was really thinking, meaning the young woman going abroad. Charming, sexy, and hilarious, The Dud Avocado gained instant cult status when it was first published. Take one zippy, curious 21-year-old American named Sally J., just out of college, drop her into the middle of Paris's left bank, and an Italian diplomat, an American theatrical director, a couple of painters. What I really like also about this book is that Sally J., if memory serves me, is not wealthy. She can get herself over to Paris, yes. So she's not poor, but she's not given a ton of money by her parents to be there. She has to find a job. And that sets her apart from the other people that she runs into. And of course, she has an affair with someone. I think that's the Italian diplomat. I'm not sure, but it was fun. I highly recommend, and such a beautiful book. Speaking of atmosphere, I thought of Patricia Highsmith and The Talented Mr. Ripley. So there's a Netflix series, I think, called Ripley right now. And there was the movie that was made by Jude Law and um, who's the other who's the other actor? The Talented Mr. Ripley, the movie. That's really good. I really enjoyed the movie. The series, I only watched like the first and second episode, so I don't know how closely it's following this story. This came out in 1955. Um, Tom Ripley, a product of a broken home, branded a sissy by his dismissive Aunt Dottie, who he still gets money from, but he is an out and out, low grade con man in, I'm going to say New York City. But he's running little cons, he's getting money through these cons. And then he meets a wealthy industrialist who hires him to bring his playboy son, Dickie Greenleaf, back from gallivanting in Italy. So I think he pretends like he is, or maybe he really was, a classmate of Dickie Greenleaf. Dickie is over in Rome or somewhere. I'm not sure where I'm not sure where in Italy, but Tom goes over. He's given money. He says, "Sure, I'll go over and convince your son to come home." I guess the father thinks that's a better idea than the father going over. So he goes over, and I think at some point he says that he was sent by his father. But it's pretty clear that he wants to befriend Dickie, and despite Dickie's girlfriend Marge not liking him, that is not going to bother a con man at all. And Dickie, I don't know, he's one of the most interesting characters because he doesn't reject Tom. And I think that's where the psychological thriller part starts to snag you. Like, why doesn't Dickie just say, okay, goodbye? But he doesn't. Why? And that's one of the reasons I kept reading is the subtle and the complex nature of Dickie's relationship with Tom. There's so many points where you're like, okay, now he's going to say, Tom, we've had enough of you. It's so interesting. So they're in Italy. I don't remember if it's Venice or Rome, but then they travel to other parts of Italy and probably to Paris. I don't recall, but it's such a atmospheric novel while being a psychological thriller. And I'm not a thriller person, so the fact that I love this story should tell you something. So Patricia Highsmith, The Talented Mr. Ripley. I mean, Talented Mr. Ripley. Yeah, you can't go wrong. Another book that I read during the summer that I have a very fond memory of because I was traveling is Don DeLillo's White Noise. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I took this and Bonjour Tristesse with me on a trip to when we went to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And this is about a husband and wife. The husband's a professor. The wife is, among other things, like a aerobics teacher. They have 3 kids. And this was satirical and surprisingly laugh out loud funny. I could picture all the characters in this book from the get-go. There's a twist in this story that sets the plot in motion, but all that means is that you just get more and more of the characters and the excellent dialogue. Oh my god, so funny. Let me see what it says on the flap. A brilliant satire of mass culture and the numbing effects of technology, White Noise tells the story of Jack Gladney, a teacher of Hitler studies at a liberal arts college in Middle America. Jack and his 4th wife, Babette, bound by their love, fear of death, and 4 ultramodern offspring, navigate the rocky passages of family life to the background babble of brand name consumerism. And then something happens in the town with some kind of chemical spill. That's not a spoiler. It's just a plot point that sends everybody in their cars trying to get out of town. And then there's some wacky side plots that are less interesting to me, but I feel like the story, the characters were just maintained all across the story. The relationship that Babette and Jack have is so delightful to read about, and then the friendship between Jack and his college friend, his professor friend, is also um, just extraordinary. I couldn't recommend this more. This is a really fun book to travel with because there's no real hard thinking, and you're going to have a lot of fun. I've never read another Don DeLillo, even though I wanted to. You know how it goes. The fifth book and the last fiction I have to recommend is a classic, Donna Tartt's The Goldfinch. I mean, look at this chunkster. This is the best kind of book to just travel with and take to the beach, and it's an epic. That's why I'm recommending it. An epic novel about Theo, a 13-year-old New Yorker, he miraculously survives an accident that kills his mother. That's the first sentence in the back of the book. That's the first thing that happens in this novel. When I was reading this, we were on a scuba trip in December, but in a very hot place. And I picked it up after someone had read it. They left it there in a free library, and I was hooked by the very first page. It feels like Dickensian at first, the way it opens up. I mean, not during the accident that kills his mother, but afterwards, when Theo is trying to find out about this painting, the Goldfinch, which has something to do with that accident. And he goes on a quest having to do with this painting. Is the book too long? Probably. I got bogged down. So I took this home with me, and there I was in December and January, still slogging through this book. I got really hung up in the middle by the time we're in Las Vegas. But I still enjoyed it. Yeah, this is a good one to take away with you or to just slowly make your way through during the summer. I highly recommend. And then the nonfiction I have is one that have been thinking about because I'm like, I want to reread that. I think I read it 2 years ago. I got this book in a Secret Santa book exchange that I think it was James the Bookend was organizing. He's got this lovely card in here. And so I guess, I don't even remember what it was, how it was organized, but you sent books to, or a book or books. He had sent me 2 books to and from people. Yeah, December of 2022 is when he sent this. And then I read it. I must have read it last year. Can I actually tell you what it is? Sorry, it's Maggie Nelson's Bluets. And it's a essay collection, kind of. It's not an essay collection. It's a nonfiction, and it's numerized. Numerized? Enumerated. And little vignettes, little paragraphs about the color blue. So it's not an essay collection. How do they explain it? Maggie Nelson's books include, no, they don't really explain it, but it's Maggie Nelson's meditations on all kinds of things, but having to do with the color blue. So fascinating, I thought. Number 72, it is easier, of course, to find dignity in one's solitude. Loneliness is solitude with a problem. Can blue solve the problem, or can it at least keep me company within it? And she goes on. I do not feel my friend's pain, but when I unintentionally cause her pain, I wince as if I hurt somewhere, and I do. Oh my God. Yeah, this deserves a reread. What a wonderful book to just take with you or have with you to dip into, because of the way it's chunked up into little thoughts and paragraphs all around the hue blue. Yeah, it's really good. Really good. I'm really happy that James the Bookend, who's a Bookstagrammer, sent this to me. I highly recommend. And I actually have a 7th book now to tell you about. I can't help myself because this came up just yesterday. I started reading a book that Ben from Benjamin's Journal, I just talked about a few videos ago. It's a Deborah Levy fiction, which is Swimming Home. And I've never read Deborah Levy's fiction. I've read her like autobiographical series, Real Estate and Cost of Living, which I adore. So I picked this up the last time I was at the library. I remembered I wanted to read it. It's so gently wacky, quacky, quirky. Yeah. It's set at a French holiday villa, and you're led into the story with the first chapter, which is Alpes Maritimes, France. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that at all correctly. I know. July 1994, a mountain road, midnight. And you read about the scene that has Kitty Finch in it and another person. Is he named? I don't think so. That's interesting. You don't know what that's about. And then Saturday, wildlife. And a bunch of people, Joe Jacobs, Nina Jacobs, his daughter, and his wife and another couple, are at a French villa that they've rented and for a holiday. And they see a person swimming in the pool. They actually think it's maybe a dead person. And it happens to be Kitty Finch. Well, that's interesting. We just read about Kitty Finch. How does that unfold? So you automatically start to see that Kitty Finch is a little interesting, maybe a little off her rocker. But then, without really any explanation or background, you very quickly understand that everybody's unique in their own ways in this story. I really like the way Deborah Levy is considering the reader intelligent. You're going to catch up. You're going to get it. She's not spoon feeding you background setup, anything. You're just like on the tracks immediately, but it's very also gentle and pleasant to read. So this is like 130 pages if you don't count the introduction, 135 pages. South of France, quirky characters that you don't really have to work too hard to understand what's going on. Just dive right in. I highly recommend this. So yeah, that's it. That's what I have for you. I hope you're enjoying this beginning of summer. Let me know your thoughts on any of these books that I've just talked about. I'd be happy to continue the conversation, of course, in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks for joining.